So friends, here we'll be saying the second question here we have with respect to denudation chronology. Now question is, how does denudation chronology help in understanding the sequential development of landscape and landform? We need to elucidate it. Now this is a 20 mark question where we need to explain the denudation chronology, what it is, where the principles are there, what are the theories are there, how they are related to the sequential development of landscapes and landforms. Okay. So here we'll be seeing that the denudation chronology it is the broader view. The broader view to understand the development of landscapes and landform over cycle of erosion, or we can write here instead of cycle or cycle of erosion, the erosion surfaces. Okay, because under the erosion surfaces we study the cycle of erosion and the non-cycle part of the erosion which have been provided under the various theories. So under this we'll be seeing that it is basically the lowering of feature. Okay, for example, here we have a mountain. So this mountain, it will undergo the erosion. At the same point of time, there will be certain deposition. Okay, there will be certain erosion and certain deposition. With time, what will be seeing that there will be a conditions for the achievement of grade. So there will be this kind of condition which will be part of the deposition, and this has been eroded here, and this is again the part of the deposition here. So this we call it as the condition of grade. Condition of grade or condition of equilibrium between the endogenetic and exogenetic processes. So here with the help of, this is being done with the help of weathering, erosion, mass wasting, also transportation and deposition. So all these processes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they are important and they are being highlighted under the denudation chronology. Therefore, this denudation chronology, it is seen as a broader view. Now, when we need to understand the denudation chronology, first we need to see that what are the principles or what are the basic principles which are present in this factor here. So under denudation chronology, we'll be seeing that there are three important principles. Number one, it is principle of uniformitarianism. When we look at the principle of uniformitarianism, it is being given by J.T. Hack. Okay, where he has provided the present is key to the past. That is, to understand the present landforms, we need to study the historical evolution of the landforms. But at the same point of time, we need to see that what are the various processes which are being seen, being done in this particular region. And it is said that if a particular process is being done in a particular one region, so the similar laws and similar erosion will be also applied in the place too. So both the places will see a uniform denudation in a due course of time. Okay. Second thing, the second principle which has been applied here. We will say that under the cycle of erosion, there are a lot of things. And here the Davis came a winner. He came as a front runner who was able to explain the sequential development of the landforms with respect to the endogenetic forces, exogenetic forces, and whatever will be seeing that the process is again getting cyclic form. So the second thing here is the principle of the cycle of erosion. So this cycle of erosion, this was propounded by Davis. Okay, so any landform, it is undergoing a sequential part here. It is undergoing a cyclic development. So cycle of erosion. And third thing we'll be seeing here, that is the cyclic time. So cyclic time is also one of the important factor. Time is another very important factor which is helping any kind of development of landform or landscape to take place. Okay, which is taken here as a part of the denudation history. Okay, so this is taken here as a part of the denudation history. Now, when we apply all these three rules or all these three parts here, we will see that we are able to reconstruct. Okay, we are able to reconstruct the historical development of landform and landscape. So under this, the first thing what we see here, where the later other principles are applied, that is number one, that is palimpsest topography. Under the palimpsest topography, we'll be seeing that if any landscape, it is formed, okay, out of a mountain. But here we are seeing that it is then again getting uplifted. Okay. So whatever the landform was formed here, now it is uplifted and present in this form. Now here it will again undergo the cycle of erosion and it will again form another landform here. So this is time 1, time 2 and time 3, where we see that any landscape, when it is erased and rewritten, when it is erased and rewritten, this particular aspect here, it is taken up under as a part of the palimpsest topography. This palimpsest topography, it helps us to identify. It helps us to identify where the process for the denudation, it was single cycle or monocyclic or polycyclic, or it was multicyclic. So under this thing, we can apply this aspect here and we can add certain various aspects here for the study of this palimpsest topography, which helps us to identify the which kind of landform has been formed here in the previous point of time. Okay. When we move further, we'll be seeing here that there is certain drainage characteristics also. Under this drainage characteristics, we'll be seeing that there can be either presence of antecedent river, okay, there can be presence of antecedent river, there can also be presence of consequent river, or there can be presence of superimposed river. So under these aspects, what we are able to identify that whether a particular mountain range and the rivers coming out of it, they were present as a part of antecedent or they were superimposed. For example, this is the river which is moving here, and initially they were having different courses, but now they are having the similar courses, and they are now able to erode landform in their superimposed manner. So we can identify this with the drainage characteristics also. Now, when we look at the third part here, that is what is the depositional history. So when we look at the depositional histories, we are able to identify that uh, what was the past climate. What was the past climate? Here we'll be seeing that if the climate was arid, okay, if the climate was arid here, so there will be formation of palayas, bahadas, okay, there may be development of dunes, etc. If there is a cycle of erosion which is going under the riverine or fluvial. So here we'll be seeing that the depositional histories will be related to the development of alluvial fans, natural leaves, then deltas, etc. Okay. Similarly, we can identify the various other depositional features, and they gives us a particular aspect about what was the past climate was present in those particular region, due to which such kind of landform has formed in those areas. Okay, so this we can do by the stratigraphy. So under the stratigraphy, what will be seeing that if we have certain, I'll take another board here. So under stratigraphy, what we will see here, if there is presence of a land and there is presence of a ocean. So this is a oceanic part. It can be riverine also. It can be normal mountainous regions also. So here what we'll be seeing that there will be certain amount of deposition which will be done by the rivers in this particular area. So here I have the sediment one which is deposited here. Then after certain point of time when the climate changes, so because of the change in climate, the kind of deposition which is taking place in this region, it will change. Okay. In the next part, the next phase, what I will say that when there is a change in again the past climate is taking place, so the deposition which is done by this region, it will again change. Now, with respect to certain aspect, when there is endogenetic forces, with the endogenetic forces, this region is coming out of the land, coming out of water. So we'll be seeing here that here we have number one, the part of this blue one, then number two as a part of this red one, then number three as a part of this yellow one. So we have here certain deposition at this point. But at the same time, what we'll be seeing here that there will be again deposition of sediments will take place inside the oceanic region. Now, when they are coming out of this region, they will undergo denudation. Okay, so as they will go the denudation, here the erosion of the surfaces will start. Okay, there will be 1, 2, the erosion of surface will start. And with the second point, with the second part, when there is again subsidence, when there is again subsidence of land is taken place, it will undergo inside the water, and over this region, there will be again deposition of sediments will occur above it. So in this way, we are able to understand the past climates of this particular areas over which the deposition of certain sediments have taken place. This can be seen over the foothills of the mountains. They can be seen over the depositional areas of the sea, continental shelf, over the rivers regions also. Okay. So this interpretation will be seeing that this is quite very much important for us to understand that how this system was working. Looking at how this denudation chronology is being taken up here to understand the past climate. Now, here we'll be seeing that for example, carbon dating. Carbon dating technique can be used here to identify the previous landforms, like what is the age of fossil. This can be identified by the carbon dating, where we are identifying the C14 with ratio of C16 with ratio of C18. Okay, they have their particular half-life. Okay? This half-life is studied by the radiocarbon dating and their age is identified. There is some limitation that we cannot identify the rocks beyond 550 million years ago, because after that point of time, the graph where we understand this half-life, it almost goes straight. Therefore, we are not able to identify that what is the basic timeline after that. So this is the carbon dating. Second is dendrochronology. For example, we might know that every year there is a single bark of tree is added, a single ring is added here. Every year a single ring is added and the tree's trunk, it is growth, it is expanding in its size. Okay? So whenever there is cold climate, which is not, whenever there is a cold climate which is not suitable, for tree. So at that particular year, the size of that ring, it will be small, or the size of the grid, it will be small here. But at the same point of time, if the climate is good, climate and rainfall, it is good here. So therefore, at that point of time, the ring, it will have a bigger size. So under this aspect, we are able to identify that how this particular situation is helping us to understand the climate of that particular region here. Okay. Then we can also see certain aspects here with respect to the relative dating here. Okay. We can also use here paleomagnetism. Okay. So by the use of paleomagnetism, we are looking at the rocks which are present in those regions and what is their inclination. For example, this is the mid-oceanic region. So here we have the inclination of rocks, which is changing with time. Okay. So this is the inclination of rock which is changing with time. Either these rocks, they can rise over the land, either these rocks, they may submerge, either they will get a more erosion. So by understanding the relief features plus the magnetic inclination, we are able to understand that what is the past climate which was happening here. Now, This is the ocean region study. But when we look at the rocks here, these rocks, they have particular inclination with respect to time. At one layer, it will be like this. At another layer, it will be like this. At third layer, it will be like this. And fourth layer, it will be like this. So in this way, if there is certain kind of superimposition has taken place here, okay, so this superimposition can be understood here with the use of this paleomagnetism technique when we are going into the vertical layers of rocks. When we are studying the vertical structure of the rocks, this paleomagnetism technique is very useful here. Okay. Now, these are certain techniques through which we can understand that how these particular aspects are used, okay, how these particular techniques of the denudation chronology can be used to identify the various landforms and sequential development of landform and the landscape. Okay. So this can be used, these techniques can be used here. There are several other techniques like the cosmogenic nuclides, where we use the quartz and beryllium. So they have certain the decay principle here. Okay, the time decay principle is there. So we can also use them to understand this aspect. Okay. Now, this is question. Now moving to the next question. Now, here it is asking, what is deep sea mining? What are the potential benefits and risk associated with it? Okay, so this question will be saying that this is a very recent question. Why it is being asked? Because India in the contemporary time, India has conducted an environmental impact assessment of the Indian Ocean region. Okay, under the Indian Ocean region, where it is conducted with the help of International Seabed Authority, okay, with the International Seabed Authority, which is a part of UNCLOS. Okay, so basically what we are saying that India is being granting a license to explore the minerals which are present in the exclusive economic zone of India. Okay, the exclusive economic zone of India, where we have polymetallic nodules, cobalt, phosphorus, etc., and other resources. So basically, what we are seeing here that India has also developed, we can say, the Matsyan 6000, which was able to go to a depth of 6000 meters. So here we can see that this is a possibilistic approach. Okay, this is a possibilistic approach where we are able to go into the deeper part of the ocean. We are trying to overcome the limitations of the nature, that is the high pressure conditions, the low temperature conditions. Okay, so here we are able to overcome them by this Matsyan 6000. Okay, so deep sea mining is basically a mining which is taking place in the deep ocean region, majorly consisting of abyssal plains, mid-oceanic region, then there is seamounts and near trenches. So these are certain regions where we can find various kind of resources being deposited in due course of time. Okay. So this is one area where we see that which has been in news. So this has been in news recently. Therefore, this question was very well expected out of it. Now, when we talk about the potential benefits and risk associated with it, first we'll talk about the potential benefit. Okay. Number one, we are seeing here that we are using the principle of carrying capacity. Carrying capacity. This carrying capacity basically for resources. Okay. Over the land, the resources they are now limited. So therefore we are moving to the oceans as new frontier. As new frontiers of resources. Okay, so this region we are looking at because we need to increase our carrying capacity. Second thing, what we can apply here as a part of this, we can also look at the limits to growth. Where we are looking at the resources, expansion, okay, and make our system of population or our world as sustainable. Okay, sustainable and not catastrophic. Okay, so this can be done when we have ample resources with us for food, for energy, for other aspects, what we can see here. Then benefits also will be seeing here. The part there is requirement of certain critical minerals. So critical minerals like cobalt, then manganese. These are found in the form of polymetallic nodules. Okay. So this can be used for the development of the batteries, which will help us to store the renewable energy. Okay, so we can see here that this aspect here, it can it can be linked with the cornucopian approach. Okay, now after this we can also see that the other benefits here will be with respect to the energy security. Energy, we are seeing that over the land, either we can see the petroleum, okay, or natural gas, which can be offshore, are limited. Okay, so they will be exhausted in the near future. So therefore, we are looking for the OTEC, okay, which can be generated by waves, currents, and tides. Also, other aspect where we'll be able to harness the energy from the oceanic regions. So this will also help us to provide a energy security. Now, number 5, we can go for the food security. Okay, for the food security, we'll be seeing that we have already taken up the fisheries, the seaweeds, etc., which is helping us to overtake or overcome the issues with respect to the food and nutritional security. food and nutrition, and which will help a country to achieve a better human development index and make a population a better part here. Number 6, we can also interlink it with the medicinal uses. For example, omega-3 fatty acids, they are extracted from the fishes. Also, there are certain animals which are present in the benthic zone. Okay, they are present in the deep ocean region. So the compounds which are present inside them, they are used for the treatment of cancer. Okay? They are used for the treatment of cancer. So therefore, we have a potential benefits here from carrying capacity, that is resources, to the medicinal uses. Now, when we look at the second part of the question, that is the risk associated with it. Now, moving towards the risk part here. So under the risk, we'll be seeing that number one, that is actually happening, that there will be ecosystem will be destroyed. As we see that the fishes which are actually living inside the ocean water, they do not have such kind of tolerance levels. Okay? So we can see here number one with respect to the tolerance, where the law of tolerance that is being provided by Shelford. There can be sedimentation. Sedimentation, this is happening because of the dredging process. Okay, whenever we are trying to take up the resources, it will result into, that is the dredging phenomena, and under dredging, the sediment, it will be given out. So these sediments, they can choke the gills of fishes. Okay, and because of this, they won't be able to clear them out, and it can result into their demise. Okay, it will result into the loss of biodiversity. Okay, so this will be resulting into the loss of biodiversity in those particular regions of the. Third thing we'll be seeing here, that the fishes, okay, they have to face various kind of pollutants. For example, if you are doing certain activity inside the oceanic regions, so it may result into the oil spill, it may result into eutrophication, okay, oil spill, eutrophication, and certain poisonous materials, which is a kind of a pollutant for them. Okay? So this pollutant, this will actually hamper the biodiversity again, and it will result into either their migration or their demise. Okay? Now, number 4 thing we'll be looking at from the perspective of like how we have extracted or exploited the resources on land. The same thing will happen inside the ocean. So there will be resource exploitation inside the ocean also. This will again bring us back to the same point, that is the point 0, where we are starting to take away the resources from those regions, which is basically seen from the perspective of capitalism. And this capitalism aspect, this is against the Marxism, okay, where we are looking at the commodification of the oceanic resources. So this commodification of oceanic resources, it will result into not taking out the resources which is required, but taking out the resources as per the development of the capital or the accumulation of resources or accumulation of capital. So this will again bring us to a carrying capacity point where we will be looking at the breaching of carrying capacity. Breaching of carrying capacity of oceans. So when the carrying capacity of the oceans will be breached, here the rate of degradation or rate of exploitation, it will be more than the rate of regeneration. The rate of exploitation will be greater than the rate of regeneration of the resources back. So this will again result into the breaching of the carrying capacity, and it will destroy the marine ecosystem in a very well manner. So here we can see this from the various perspective, that is from the tolerance level or from the loss of biodiversity, where the loss of habitat will occur. Okay, from the loss of habitat to the pollution levels, from the exploitation of resources, from the capitalism and Marxist view to the commodification, and the breaching of the carrying capacity. So these are certain things which we can see here, which will actually risk the human ecosystem and as well as the oceanic ecosystem. So under this, what we can see here, that we need to provide a very good conclusion here. So for providing a good conclusion, we need to add certain aspects here with respect to the sustainable resource exploitation, which is not seen from the perspective of the shallow ecology, okay, but it is seen from the perspective of deep ecology. And here we are not looking for the commodification, but here we are looking for the sustainable extraction of resources, okay, where the biodiversity and the ecosystem, it is not degenerated. And this thing will be seeing that this is taken from a broader view from the perspective of welfareism, as well see that the oceans and the ocean resources, they are basically the global common. So if they are global commons, they have to be seen as a global commons, and it has to be overlooked by UNCLOS, under it the International Seabed Authority, which will be looking it with the environmental impact assessment procedure and making the resources quite important for the human beings, because it is important, and but their extraction more sustainable. So this point we can take it up here from the perspective of this question. Okay. So how we can take it up from the perspective of environmentalism, the welfareism, the Marxian. So these things we can add here for the resource extraction at the deep ocean. So this is a question on deep ocean mining. Now moving to the next question. Here we have man and wildlife conflict. Keyword 1, are ever increasing. Discuss its causes, consequences, and remedies. Okay, so number 1, we need to provide causes. Number 2, the consequences, and number 3, the remedies here. Okay. So one thing we see here, that the human beings as well as the wildlife, they are, both of them are part of the biosphere. This is man, this is wildlife. So whenever the area of wildlife, which is basically their habitat, the habitat of wildlife, it is breached by humans, resulting into their encroaching. This results into the man wildlife conflict. So this thing we see here, which is resulting into the wildlife and animal conflict here. So when we look at the man here, the population number one, as per the UNDP, that is United Nations Developmental Program, in 2025, the world population is almost around 8.3 billion. Okay, so this is 8.3 billion. So what we are seeing that for the increased population, we are increasing settlement. Okay, so that the population can be sustained well, because we need all the population to have a better living standard and quality of life. Okay, so quality of life and standard of living. So this is resulting into the encroachment, and third thing, there is deforestation. Okay, so this deforestation, it is again looked as a part of the expansion of human beings, where the settlements are being developed. So deforestation, we are seeing that contemporarily it is being taking place in the tropical rainforest region. Okay, it is also taking place in the boreal forest, plus the regions of deciduous forest. Okay, so deforestation is being seen. Apart from deforestation, we are also going for the agriculture, so that we can have a food. Okay, food for the sustenance of the population, which can be here interlinked with the malthus. Okay, so food is important for the human beings. So increasing the food part here, we are actually taking up the agricultural, the forest land, and we are converting them to the agricultural field. Okay, so these are the certain things which we can see here, which is actually happening in the contemporary time period, where the man and wildlife conflict is taking place. So here we are actually, year on year, we are expanding the areas of wildlife. Okay, we are expanding the area of wildlife, taking up area or habitat of wildlife for anthropogenic use. So this is what we are doing in the contemporary time. So we can take this part as the causes of the man and wildlife conflict here. Now, when we move to the next aspect, that is the consequences of the man and wildlife. When we look at the consequences here, what we see that number one, because of the conflict, there is the mauling of the man. Okay, the mauling of man is being done here. Second thing we'll be seeing here, that the ecological balance that we see in the form of trophic level. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 5. That is the keystone species. So these keystone species, majorly they are becoming more critically endangered. Okay, they are becoming more critically endangered. So under this condition, what we are saying that as they are becoming critically endangered, they are not either having resources to eat or they are feeling endangered. Under that situation, they are attacking humans. Okay, they are attacking humans. Okay, we will also see here that sometimes during the safari, or when we take it as under the part of tourism. So you might have you might have seen about the night safari. So under the night situation, humans have an adaptation that they can be nocturnal. But there are several animals who are nocturnal. They have a particular limitations for light. Limitations of lux. The lux is basically here the measurement of the luminosity. When it is beyond their tolerance, they are again felt threatened. And this is acting as a part of light pollution. This is again acting as a light pollution, resulting into the man-animal conflict at that particular instance. So when we look at the limitation part here, this limitation part, it is explained very well by the Liebig. Liebig has explained here the part of limitation. Now, in the fourth part, we'll be seeing that as per these consequences, okay, when we are disturbing their habitat and we are also crossing their corridors. For example, for the habitat, we'll be seeing that there are certain particular areas of tigers where they live, and for corridors, we have certain animals like elephants. So when their habitat is disturbed, they do not know where to go. Okay, they do not know where to go, and this result into their encroachment into the human settlement. Okay, their encroachment into the human settlement and resulting into the man and wildlife conflict. Okay. In the fifth part, we'll be seeing that we are basically deforesting. Okay, we are deforesting grasses we are taking up. We are using everything for the economical purpose. So the food which is present, this is also getting declined. So for the foods, for example, in the region of Kerala, the elephants enter the field. Not only Kerala but also Karnataka. The elephants enter the field here. Okay. In the complete region of India, we have the different species of apes, monkeys, etc. So they are also going for the food part. Okay. They are basically going into the agricultural field so that they can eat them. So this is again resulting into some kind of man-animal conflict in those regions. So there is a case study of a pregnant elephant, which was basically the farmers they use crackers to threaten the animals so that they can go away. So one of the elephant it had eaten this crackers. So this resulted into the death of that particular infant, which was present inside, not infant, but basically that was the baby which was present inside her, the elephant, and the mother also. So both of them died here. So this resulted into the conflict between them. Now, what we can do here so that this consequences can be overcome and it can be made a better situation. Now, as per the various reports, we'll be saying that the population of human beings it will reach beyond 11 billions by 2070. So this is again another reality. We'll be adding up almost 3 billion of population. So what we need to do here, we need to have a proper management of number one, the habitat conservation. Okay, habitat conservation in the form of biosphere reserve, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, forest reserve. So this can be taken up as a part of a solution. And second thing we'll be seeing that the core areas and the corridors, they have to be made again intact, so that the animals, they do not go anywhere else and they move into the regions freely. Okay, so this is to be done here. Third thing, the wildlife centric infrastructure. For example, bridges, roads, okay? Bridges and roads, they have to be developed in such a manner. Okay? For example, railways also. Railways have to be developed in such a manner that they do not move through the region of the critical habitats or the corridors. Okay? So this have to be taken up in this part here as a solution. Fourth thing, the food aspect. We have to provide food to the animals also because it is the natural right. But at the same time, we also need our economic development. But for our economic development, we cannot just take the food away from the animals. So the food provision should be there, and there should be natural regions where the food is available to them, and it will result into the decline of conflict into majorly the agricultural areas. Okay. Fifth thing we can do here with respect to the conservation aspect or to avoid the man-animal conflict, we can develop a region which is more of a zoonotic region, where a region which is having humans and animals, this region have to be more wildlife friendly. Okay, the interfering region, it has to be more wildlife friendly so that the conflict has to be minimum. So this is has to be also seen from a one perspective here. So we can see here that we can go with the various aspect here for the conservation of animals, okay, for the conservation of habitat, for the security of food for the animals, and looking at their health aspect also, which will make them also happy, and the humans can also, or the man can also live freely here. So for this aspect, for this part here, we are saying that for reducing the man and animal conflict, we are actually taking up the solutions which can be either deterministic, either it can be possibilistic, either it can be neo-deterministic, can be deep ecological. Okay, so in this way, we are able to develop a situation where the humans and wildlife, they can live in a cohesion rather than living in a conflict. Okay, so by this we can end our answer here for this particular aspect. Okay, so guys, this is the answer for this question. Let's move to the next question.